episode. Okay, let's get going. Let's start with Bubble, actually. I think Bubble is, you know what? We'll create a whole new tier for Bubble called, we'll call this one, uh, add a row below. Boom. We'll put Bubble in something called, holy fuck. Good. Bubble is a good character. She's comic relief, and it's interesting that she's part of, the main man, Kane himself. So she's gonna be going in good. It's interesting that she actually has some power to define Kane. Other than that, we don't get a lot more than comic relief. We get her taunting Kane in the eighth episode, which is cool and all, but it's not that much. So I'm gonna put her in good because she adds comedy to the show, and hey, that's always welcome. Okay, now we're gonna go to they're okay. We're just gonna put some NPCs here, nothing fancy like that. Some NPCs who aren't that noteworthy, like this. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? All right. And okay, I'm not gonna rank any more NPCs probably. All right, I'll get to the good stuff. Okay, let's start with Gangle from the main cast. I think Gangle is a good character. I don't think she's great. Personally, why do I not think she's great? One big problem for me was her voice, and I felt Gango peaked a bit early. She gets the fast food episode, but other than that, I don't think she gets that many interesting moments. She's very shy and submissive, and she doesn't really break out of it that much. She hangs out with Suable and stuff, and it is nice that she is able to find a friend in her and sort of come to terms with thing in the digital circus. We don't really get a lot of development with her, but she's a nice character to have. It would be worse without her, obviously, but I don't really have that much of an opinion on her. I just think she's good. Same goes for. You know what? I'm gonna put Ragatha in great. In my previous tier list, I think I put Ragatha uh, a bit lower than this, but that was because we didn't really have as much of her. But now seeing everything she's been through, seeing she stays positive because she wants to be there for everyone, and also probably because uh, she has so much trauma about her mother and she wants to be sort of, the one who takes care of everyone. I appreciate it. Ragatha is definitely a good character, and she carries very high expectation of herself and a lot of guilt. Yeah, she's definitely great. So yeah. Alright, let's get moving to Gummy Goo. Okay, so we only got a very short cameo from Gummy Goo, but I am actually gonna put him above Gangle, which is kind of insane, I know. But sometimes maybe if he'd gotten more screen time, we'd see that there wasn't much more to explore with him and stuff. So yeah, but for what we see of him, realizing that he basically doesn't matter, and that he doesn't have a real place in the world, and that he's not a real person, is pretty interesting stuff. So yeah, he does deal with it in an interesting way. Well, it doesn't really happen. He's just like, yo, I'm gonna come to the circus, and then he gets slaughtered, which is, unfortunate. But I'm actually gonna put him in great. So yeah, okay, and then this guy's an NPC, this guy's an NPC. The ghost was pretty scary, I guess. Not really, but I'm gonna put in an average because, yeah, why not? And then, yeah. Okay, so let's get going with Kaufmo. Kaufmo is most notably a friend of Jack's and Ribbit in the show. He's sort of, just a chill dude, has a pretty pleasant voice, easy to listen to, easy to like. I'm just gonna put him in good. We don't get to see too much of him, but from what we get to see, I definitely say that, you know, he's a pretty likable character. So I'm gonna put him in good. All right, now let's get going with Kane. Now I'm gonna put Kane in. Let's just rename this. I don't really like the Tumblr language, but you know, it's okay. I'm gonna put this in. What should we name this one? Let's name it Star. Yeah, he's definitely a star of the show. He definitely carries episode 8. It's sort of his big breaking moment, and we get to see that, you know, he's inspired by Am, and he's basically as much of a prisoner as the others. He's stuck in this world. I think he actually takes. I would not be surprised if he takes some inspiration of the demiurge, which, if you don't know, it's basically the Gnostic god, which is the god in the Old Testament, which creates the world because it is so lonely. And Cain is sort of similar. He's basically alone in this void, and he gets to building, and he desperately tries to keep company with these characters, but he can't really relate to them as much because he's not a human. You know, he's an AI. He's limited in that way. So in that way, he carries some parallels to Am as well as the Demiurge. So I think Kane is definitely a very interesting character, for sure. So yeah, I'm gonna put him in star. All right, now let's get going with Subal. Now, this one is gonna upset the lesbians. I'm just gonna put Subal in good. I know, boys. Well, let's put him above Kaufmo at least. Why? Sort of similar because of Gangle. We don't get as much of development with her. She's sort of grumpy when she starts, and then she's grumpy when it ends, and she carries an interesting cadence. She talks very like emo, I suppose, which is okay, I guess. Her biggest character arc is probably finding a piece of her body that she likes, and she starts liking herself, and she starts hanging out with Gangle, and they sort of, you know, look out for each other, which is cute, but you know, it's just it's just not that interesting. She's a bartender, and she's carried trauma because prejudice and stuff, but you know, I don't really care that much about her characters. I'm sorry to say, but you know, I see why other people would. But yeah, if you're gonna get mad at me for not liking Subod and grow up, it's just a fictional character. Please go and do something with your life. Right, anyway, Queenie, we're gonna put Queenie in average only because we don't get to see that much of her. Uh, she's almost in good though. It's just I don't really have that much of an opinion. She is, of course, married to the GOAT, Kinger, which I'm gonna put in awesome. I did put him in this tier, I think, last time. Uh, it's not that he's dropped off, it's just that, you know, he doesn't quite have that star factor. I don't really know how to explain it. He's basically a good person, and I would say the strongest of them all. He's sort of the dad of the group, takes care of everyone. When someone is sad, he's there to cheer them up. You know, he's basically, you know, he's the shoulder to cry on type of dude. He's pretty chill, and he's also the guy who managed to defeat Kane. Not that that really changed anything though, but you know, if deleting Kane was the main goal and would let them leave, then he would be the big hero of the story. So yeah, I'm gonna put him in awesome just because, you know, he's funny but also caring, and I like that we get to see that he is much more than just a crazy comedy relief character. The more episodes we get of him. So yeah, definitely gonna put him in awesome. Now, let's rename this one to um, yeah. Now let's just call it awesome. All right. Um. Okay. This is kind of an NPC. Uh. She's funny, I suppose. Evil Pomni, I guess. Evil Jax, funny being the opposite of Jax, kinda. Abstractions, I'm gonna put them in good because they're a good addition. Uh, I'm not really talking about a specific character, it's just a concept. It adds a lot of depth to the story. So I'm gonna have to put it in good. And then, yeah. Okay, now let's talk about Scratch. Scratch is probably the guy who wanted to do the brain scans because my theory is that he wanted to live longer. I don't remember if they said it outright or not, but he's basically the person who's behind all of this. By editing the brain files, Kane made this dog Scratch abstract. So yeah, he probably wanted to create something that would make him live longer. So by that, he kind of did create the whole digital circus, which kind of doomed them all. Because even though, if you think about it, even though it is a happy ending, they're now stuck there for eternity. And I don't think any brain can handle eternity, if I'm being real. I think all roads leads to abstraction. I know it's kind of a sad thought, but it is what it is. So I'm gonna put him in good actually, because he's a really important character. Disappearing dude, he's funny. Let's put him in average. Ming, he's also funny. Let's put him in average. Abel. Abel is just a pawn of Cain, basically. I think I'm glad he wasn't a real person. That would have been such a letdown if this dummy guy came out and, he was a real person. I think he's okay. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think he offers that much. It would have been real. I'm gonna put him in good, actually, because, he does his job misleading them. But, yeah, he's kind of bad at it also, not really wanting to talk to Kane and stuff and blah blah blah. The sun and the moon. I'm gonna put the sun in, they're okay. And then the moon has a powerful line in the last episode, so I'm gonna put it in average. Okay, alright. I've purposefully left these three kind of for last. Alright. Ribbit. She actually goes in star. Yeah, I'm sorry to say, but she does. She has a very short appearance, but she's so easy to like. She's so sympathetic. Seeing the flashback of her slowly being basically pushed away and not forced to abstract, but pushed in that direction, it's very good. So yeah, I'm gonna put him in star. Her in star, actually. And yeah, she's probably one of the best people you can get stuck with. And this is kind of funny because, she got stuck with Jax and Jax kind of trolled and got her to get cooked. So yeah, okay. Pomni, I think Pomni's a really good main character. Yeah, I don't think any other character in the cast could have been a main character other than Pomni. She's the perfect mix of like nervous wreck, but also positive, but also willing to push people a bit. Um, she's the only one who actually who has a decent relationship with Jax and tries to, pull him out of it in a meaningful way. Uh, it makes sense that she's the one that became as close or closer with him uh, than Ribbit. So yeah, she's definitely a star of the show, 100%. Okay, now let's get going with Jax, which I purposefully left for last. There's been some criticism saying that it's basically became the Jax show, and yes, he does take up a lot of the screen time, I won't lie, but I think it's because he's hands down the most interesting character. Like, it's not even close. If you see him in the first couple episodes, think he's just a bit of a D head or whatever, and he's a bit annoying, which I would 100% get, but yeah, just give him some time. Just watch to episode 5, you'll be intrigued. Then at episode 6, you'll be hooked. And then by the time of episode 9, I think, yeah, the writing of Jax is just it's just so good. He's such a well written character. He's basically a guy who was belittled a lot of his life, and then the guilt of potentially murdering his mother got to him. So he feels, because he's been belittled and because he carries such guilt, he basically feels that he's done, you know? There's nothing, no one should ever care about him, no one should ever like him, love him. He basically hates himself so much and tries to push people away while trying to entertain themselves by living out these extreme, um, by living through a character basically. It's very interesting. I think Jax is probably, when you think about the digital circus, you'll probably think of the relationship of Jax, Pony, and then maybe Ribbit. And also the part when he says it's too late for me, it really hits because it is kind of true. He might be beyond redeeming. I'm not saying like he deserves to be abstracted or anything, but like, yeah, he's kind of a bad person and he knows he's a bad person. So therefore, he doesn't feel that, you know, no one should be allowed to love him and whatever. So yeah, it's such a good moment with the last episode. So yeah, boys, that has been my updated tier list. Make sure to check out Union Bet. Never mind, don't check out that shit. I'm not gonna lie to you. That has been it. And yeah, if you disagree with any of my opinions, feel free to explain why in the comments or whatever. But if you'd like bluntly rage, then just grow up, little bro. It ain't all that. Just calm down. But yeah, anyways, that has been it. Hope you have an amazing day. Hope you have an amazing life. And